It's nice to talk to you. Uh, I have, of course, been a listener of Hootie and the Blowfish for a long time, and have just been introduced to your music in the past few days, and I love it. I love that you're, reaching out and kind of expressing your faith in that way. I was going to tell you the only experience I have as far as like with your band or with Darius actually is kind of funny that my wife and I took a red eye 2 years ago from Phoenix. And I mean, it was like a super late red eye. It was like 2 in the morning and we're waiting to board. And I'm just kind of like half out of it. And somebody comes behind me and they made an announcement. Somebody comes behind me. I don't even look up. And the guy's like, what did they say? What group are they boarding? I said, they're boarding group 2. And he said, oh, okay, thanks. And he walks on and then like 5 seconds or 10 seconds later, I was like, I think I recognize that guy's voice. And it was Darius. And I Googled online and saw that he had played some benefit concert the night before. So when I walked through, of course, first class, he's over there snoozing already or, kind of in his cocoon or whatever. But it was kind of funny from those little voice, thank you. I was like, I think I know who that is because his voice is so recognizable.
I love it. Yeah, he's got a good skill. He can sleep in an instant anywhere in the world.
That is a good skill. So you guys, you started in college. Is that what I read? The
Yeah,
band?
we were all eager to become songwriters and performers outside of the university sort of cocoon that we were in at the time in the late 80s. And we'd sort of started writing songs. I was in a different band when Hootie started that was on campus as well. But by the time the end of 1989 rolled around, I was joining Hootie because we all really wanted to concentrate on the songwriting aspect and persevering to travel and do what you had to do in the late 80s, which was drive around with your cassette tape of original music and play shows for people and ask them to pay
Right.
$5 to buy them. There's no other way to get a fan base. So yeah, we all in 89 sort of made a concerted effort to direct ourselves that way without much going for us in terms of we weren't fancy, we weren't well taught as far as music and songwriting, but we were very green and had a lot of perseverance, I think.
And you guys broke out like in the 90s. It was the early 90s. I'm trying to kind of place it, but I was looking over the songs that you co-wrote. Of course, I mean, some of the biggest songs of the 90s, really, Hold My Hand, I Only Want to Be With You, Let Her Cry. That's like a soundtrack, to me, to my life in that decade.
Right.
Uh, so what was it like 92, 93 or something? Or was it more like,
We we played clubs and drove around trying to get a record deal from 89 to 94. It was really, we got in the studio to make Cracked Rear View, which would become our Atlantic Records breakout that put us on the map. That happened in 94. So after 94 through the early 2000s, we were pretty much moving fast, traveling the world and trying to stay on top, which is a whole game altogether, which was not nearly as fun as getting to the top.
well, the thing I appreciate about that music in particular, and I definitely want, we're here to talk about your music, but that music came out at a time when things were kind of angsty and mellow or melancholy or whatever, and your band's music was pretty upbeat, even in the middle of whatever was going on the landscape. It was kind of like a bright spot. So fun music, party music, I guess. So
yeah, that's part of the key to us breaking through to the surface, was that we to some degree went against the grain of what was wildly popular at the time, which was the grunge scene. We loved it too. We listened to a lot of that type of music. I had no problem with that style. And like you said, the angsty sort of pain-driven music. I relished in it. If anything, I was just jealous that they were on MTV and we couldn't even get a record deal or on the radio, and so we
Right.
listened to it happily. And but I think the truth is that certain cycles of music last certain periods, and
Right.
that we sort of happened to be the torch carrier as grunge was not, I don't know, fading away, or maybe people were just looking for something new. Same thing happened to us years later when people were again looking for something new to get away from the upbeat, happy, joyous, acoustic-y rock bands like Hootie and the
Right.
Blowfish. They had to take another turn, and that's what music does. It keeps turning and sort of recycling itself.
Yeah, it seems like every decade or two, they get everybody gets into the boy bands again and the vocal groups, and then they go out of style, and then they come back in. Um, so at this point in your life, I know you had kind of a turnaround, and at some point you came to know the Lord and started doing music on the side, or music that expressed your faith. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, by the early 2000s, I became aware that my drinking was a concern to others. I wasn't much concerned with it,
Right. Yeah.
but I spent probably 3 or 4 years trying to hide it or um, downplay it in some way, and that didn't work too well. I'd started a family and was married, and we were traveling a lot as a band, and I continued to either get in trouble or cause people anxiety where I was hanging out with and the kind of hours I was keeping. And it's a stressful life for not only the person that is the addicted one, but those around him. It's a sickness. So by the end of 2004, I sort of came to a conclusion that I was sick and tired of that lifestyle. I was really, really broken up and down, and just didn't know which way to turn. So I made a turn towards, first getting rid of drugs and alcohol, and I ended up hanging out with groups of people who were staying sober, and they were using a 12-step model to do so. And I really, it altered, it changed my course because I needed a change. I was looking for something. I just didn't know what it was. And that sort of spiritual step work led me back to something I had pushed off as a kid called my Christianity. I just didn't like it as a child. I was a thrill seeking deviant. I stayed on course for the most part. I passed school. I was an athlete, but really in my mind, if I'm honest, I was trying to get away with stuff at every turn, and ended up trying to balance these two lives where one was
Right.
him who looked like he was a good kid from a good family and was successful and thriving, and the other was this one who was getting away with stuff, hiding stuff, having secrets, and living in a darker lifestyle. So after 25 years of that, I was just, please, somebody help me. And so my path continued to sort of unfold. And as I got back into the Bible and try to put this a spiritual life into action, not just a belief system, but really trying to enact it in my life, it ended up changing the way I wanted to write music and what my musical content would be. So probably by 2009 or 10, I was already realizing I didn't want to write about pain and suffering so much anymore. I wanted to celebrate the glorious spiritual revival that I was having in my heart, and to a good degree in my life too.
Wonderful. And you've been doing that because I was looking on iTunes when I was listening to your new single and your new EP. But it seems like you've released music like that like since the mid 2010s. Is that right? Like about 2015 or so?
I think my first like really contemporary Christian release was 2012, and I put out a record in 2008 that was a full-length album too, that I call it the Coming Out of the Fire album, where I was seeking, I was ready, and it comes under the name James Sonefeld, my real name. It's a little harder to
Hmm.
find, but it is on Spotify, and that's a good album too for those who are not sure which way they're turning. It is indicates a little more of the pain and suffering and the questions and the doubt. And by 2012, I was living more in celebration of, I call it, having been found. And so the music from there on out is committed to the positivity, to the idea that love as an action is what we need and what I need. And so, yeah, I've been writing that style. I released my things independently for the most part, except for this most recent project is coming out with Veer Music, and they're really helping getting it, a little bit more to the forefront. I like some more people to hear it.
Right, right. So tell me about the new record. I know the first single is "Bow to Him," and I've heard a few of the other songs like "Jesus" or whatever. So tell me a little bit about the writing, or even any of the songs that you like to spotlight.
Well, Bow to Him, it was the first song we put out, and it's a obvious shout out to God to say, this is where I want to be. This is the answer. And this unconditional love that Jesus preached is what makes my life better, even in times where I don't want to admit it, or I'm selfish or
Right.
self-seeking. It really is the true essence of peace for me. And so I wanted to acknowledge that. We put out a second single called Good to Get Back, which is a little just more of a throwback to realizing something behind you, something maybe in your childhood or your growing up transformational period, is good to get back. It's good to see it and realize, wow, I'm the sum of a lot of things. I'm not just what I am today, and I'm a lot of stair steps along the way that got me here. And then our third song that will be coming out soon is going to be called "I See Heaven on Earth," which is an acknowledgement that though there does seem to be a lot of strife and argument and war and unjustness in our world, I really would like to try and focus more on the peaceful heavenly aspect, which I think is available too. I see Heaven on Earth as talking about, hey, you know what? Yes, if you turn on the news for 8 minutes, you're going to see an act and think the world is coming to an end today.
Right,
I
right.
really, while that may be the way that some people like to look at things, it's not the way I want to look at things. I would like to remember and share that actually there's a lot of beauty and love going on in this world, and it's up to me to not only bring it, but to be nourished by it. I don't like the negativity. I'm not trying to dodge reality and act like there's no bad things or that there's no unfairness, but I see Heaven on Earth is a reminder and a calling to say, this is what I'm choosing to take part in, not the pain and
Right.
suffering.
Yeah, I've heard this, and I love to think of it as really uh, the moment that you decide to follow the Lord, your eternal life begins. So you don't wait until you die for eternal life. You're living eternal life right now. So, like you say, heaven is on earth because we're living a life more abundantly. So yeah, I love that. I love that feeling. Let me ask you about your just go back again to your how did your sobriety and coming to faith affect those around you, like your family or your friends or whatever? What kind of response did you get there?
Hmm. Well, I'd like to think for the most part, my turn into sobriety and a higher spiritual calling benefited everyone around me.
Yeah.
A big change is difficult too. I mean, I think even for my band, who was highly supportive of me getting my life together, it also means they're dealing with a changed person. And as I did continue to change, it was hard to be the old Hootie family. We like to hang out together. We like to party together. We like to travel the world together. It's been a brilliant fellowship. But when I sort of had to hop off that train because I can't drink like other people, I can't handle chemicals like a normal body can. It
Right.
did change us a little bit, and it sort of signified us moving into a different phase. And but I think the healthier, more honest Jim, if you will, allow me to use myself in the third person, is a better man. I think,
Right.
if anything, more honest. I'm not claiming to be on any certain level, but I am willing to be more honest with myself, and that allows me to be more honest with others. And that's the sort of the core of the change I made. Is I didn't know who I was. I was trying to live into something, wearing a mask and trying to make you believe I was something, but really I was a lot of other things that weren't so pretty. And when I came to acknowledge that within myself, I became a little more willing to share that with others. It's also the core of my part of my music message, is not just praising Jesus, praising a higher power, but saying, I'm broken. I'm not claiming to be above anybody.
Right.
I'm down here on
Yeah.
earth. I have real difficulties. I have real shortcomings. And the more I acknowledge them and get them out of the darkness, I think people can see them and maybe not be afraid of their own difficulties in acknowledging them.
Right. Right. You still have, it seems like you still have good relationships with everybody, because I saw that Darius wrote the forward to your book, right?
Yes.
Or I mean, wrote an endorsement, I guess. That's what I meant.
I pinned him down and told him he needed to say something nice about me, and he obliged me.
You wrote it and let him sign his name to it. How about
How
that?
do you spell your name again?
Yeah.
I gotta get this right. We have remained good friends. During the um, period of dormancy, which lasted really from 2009 to 2019, where we had decided as a band, we're going to pull back. We're going to stop the incessant touring. We're not going to write together for a while. And it was at that time that Darius's first country record came out. So it coincided with him having success and wanting to put some time into it. During that period, we still did 3 or 4 shows a year for our Hootie and the Blowfish Foundation, which was very meaningful to us. So we have a foundation that benefits a lot of charities down here in South Carolina, and we weren't going to give that up because that was just too important. So
Right.
we got to see each other even through the dormant years as our kids were growing, as everyone was, some of us starting new families. We got to still be part of each other's lives, including being part of Darius's unbelievable success in a new genre, country music. So it was nice to be able to celebrate his success. It was nice to be able to, as a human who traveled for many years, to stay home and concentrate a bit more on doing what I felt was a better, more authentic thing for me, which was being a better husband, a better father. And that's what allowed me time to write my spiritual music anyway. I can do that from my piano downstairs. I can record it with friends, and I can put it out on our lovely internet where music is nearly, infinite.
Yeah. Yeah. And you, at some point, you put your story down in a book form. And is that out now, or it's coming out soon?
The book is called Swimming with the Blowfish, Hootie, Healing, and One Hell of a Ride. And it's available for pre-order right now. You can go to any of my socials, Facebook or Instagram, and it's available all over through pre-order currently, but it'll come out June 28th, and I'll embark on trying to get out and share not only my musical message, but a larger story of transformation about my life. I wanted to try and share the story of where I came from, the joy and the difficulty of being in a band that was touring the world, and then what can happen as a result. I got caught up in a bad lifestyle and a sickness that I couldn't really control. And in the end, it's a very nice story, I think, because we got the 2019 reunion tour, which proved that our success in the 90s wasn't a mirage. It really did happen. And as you look back and get further away from a big success that was rather short-lived, you start wondering, wow, did that really happen? Was that just
Right. Yeah.
was it real? And when we got to tour amphitheaters across America in 2019 and see numbers like 20,000 people a night coming out to see us, it helped me sort of breathe a sigh of relief that, okay, it really did happen. People
Right.
really did. This music is meaningful to them. And so the book ends up sort of ending in that bright spot of families that have survived, families that have been rebuilt or reconciled, the Hootie family, our personal families, and the family of fans that we have as well. Because the connection, while we didn't tour for many years, that was a broken connection for the fans and for us. So it was a wonderful just experience to go out and see how we connected as humans through music on that tour. And I want people to be able to see what it was like from the perspective of the stage and behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for behind the scenes stories. So that's it's a good thing I'm a journalist, because I get to ask a lot of the questions of behind the scenes. So as you're talking there, one of the things I'm wondering is, do you have a moment during your career of when everything took off or whatever, where you just thought it was like such an amazing opportunity that you thought, is this real? Am I really here? Like, what would you say is like a memory for you of all that whole period of your life where I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this door of opportunity has opened up. We're here, or maybe you're meeting somebody, or you're in a location. What comes to mind?
Probably, and it's a story I write in a little more detail in the book. Sitting on the stage at the Ed Sullivan Theater, which is where the David Letterman Late Night with David Letterman was taped, and we were there in the fall of 1994 in the same spot where the Beatles sat during their big performance in America in the year I was born, 1964, and sitting there just shivering with anticipation and fear. We had been performing as a band for, I was in the band, had been there for 5 years. We were playing our song, Hold My Hand. And here's a song we had played for years. I knew it, I could play it in my sleep. And I was like frozen in like sort of fear as the red blinking lights of live were coming in front of my face. And that moment was a moment where I said, oh my gosh, I'm on television singing this little song that I wrote in 1989. And what am I like, what's happening? And we had yet really our star had not risen. This was just a moment in time, 3.5 minutes on a television, but we were beaming into millions of viewers' living rooms at the time, and that would change our trajectory. And as beautiful as that was, that's not the only moment where I sat in awe and wonder, because if I fast forward to November of 2004, I sat in a equally amazing situation, yet it was filled with desperation. And it was my last day of coming to grips in a very emotional, spiritual moment that I'm not in control of my life. I sat there
Right.
with a 4-year-old daughter. And again, this is shameless self-promotion for the book, but my daughter, who was 4 at the time, finding me sort of passed out in my music studio and wondering, Dad, what are you doing here? And she, walked away a little confused, and I knew what I was doing there. I was lost, hungover, I was living a horrible lifestyle and had lost control. I was sort of left there with the idea of, like, again, just like on Letterman, what am I doing here? Where's my
Right.
career
Yeah.
gone? Where have any of my morals gone? Where has, my ability to control anything gone? And so and those are 2 moments in the book that are set apart. I mean, the lifestyle in rock, successful music and music making and careers is not always just the top, it's the bottom too. And I want to express that those were equally meaningful because they were life-changing in very different ways.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jim. It's just been a pleasure to talk to you. And I know when you share a story like yours, it's not easy, but I think it's powerful, because it's going to touch other people who are struggling with that. The nuggets of truth and inspiration will touch people's hearts at a time when they need to make that decision too. So I appreciate your music. I appreciate your book and your voice out there. And also, like I said, I love the music that you wrote and all that good '90s music, and I just appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dwayne.